Welcome, guys. This is Brad Krantz. Thanks for joining me for today's Monday Morning Leadership, January 18th. Glad you could be here. Taking a little bit different approach today. I'm going to talk about my story and basically why did I get into leadership? Why am I building my brand around leadership? And I want to talk briefly about the law of the lid. The law of the lid comes from John Maxwell's book, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I actually read this book. It was the first book I read by him back in July of 1999, and it had a profound impact on me. I've read it several times. In fact, I was so blown away and intrigued by leadership that I gave it to my pastor and my district manager in insurance at the time. I don't know if my district manager read it, my pastor did, but I'd come to see so many shortcomings in my career in retail grocery, then being self-employed in insurance and my stint in management with a Fortune 50 company, that I saw there's so many people in, quote, management positions and that really didn't know that maybe weren't great managers, but they certainly weren't good leaders. And most companies don't teach and talk about. Most people really don't know what leadership is. They think it's telling people what to do, being a boss, and those two, we could go into another discussion on this. But the law of the lid, Maxwell really defines this by saying that it's the leadership ability that determines a person's level of effectiveness. I'm going to share a visual with you here in a bit. You know, the lower an individual's ability to lead, the lower the lid on their potential, right? And the higher their leadership, the greater the effectiveness. Okay, so the higher that you want to climb, the more leadership that you need, the more you need leadership, right? And the greater the impact that you want to make, the greater your influence, my influence, needs to be. So let's talk about the question, why did I decide to focus on and talk about leadership? Let's look at my story and see this in practice, and as a result, you know, really the truth of this chapter, it's not just theory, it's not just opinion, it really happens to be true, guys. Again, I'd seen this through my career in retail grocery, but I certainly saw it in insurance. People that were maybe good producers were made, quote, district managers, but oftentimes they weren't successful. Why? Because there's a difference between being able to be a high producer in sales and being able to be an effective manager, even more than that, a leader. And I definitely saw it in the last company that I worked with. We hit a cap of about, I'll just say tens of millions of dollars, couldn't reach past that. And through a really bad hiring decision of a completely inexperienced person take over as CEO, the owner and all the other, quote, leaders in that company were not that. They weren't led. And I've heard this said too, and it's so true that, you know, if you didn't hit your goal with one team, you're not going to hit a higher goal with the same team, right? And if you've had the same people there for 10, 20, 30 years, and they really don't know how to be effective leaders, guess what? You're going to hit this lid, and I'm going to talk about that. So that's what really led me to talk about, because I realized it was so lacking out there. I knew enough about it. I'd read enough of John Maxwell's books. I'd actually met him in person. I'd attended a couple of his seminars in that, and I knew that leadership was really, really lacking out there. It's lacking in the corporate world today. It's lacking in the church. It's lacking out in our everyday business world. And I decided I wanted to be the solution, not the proverbial problem. I don't just want to harp on it, talk about it. I want to become a better leader, and I want to become a leader so I can help empower people, because I found that to be so important. So let's talk about this. I'm going to do a quick screen share here, because this really kind of hit home. The law of the lid, you can see to the left and right, success without leadership, success with. And this is really where I've seen so many people, so many companies, so many organizations fall flat, because like I said, if your success dedication, you're really dedicated to make your endeavor, your business successful, you maybe, let's say you're an 8, but your leadership level is only about a 1, guess what? Your leadership ability, you're not going to get to where you want to be. And this is what I saw in my previous company. Their leadership level maybe was let's just say a 2 or 3, but they were limited. They couldn't go beyond a certain sales number because they just didn't have any true leadership throughout the entire company. It was really kind of amazing, frustrating a bit, which was one of the reasons I left. But on the other side here, success with leadership, right? You can see if your success dedication is an 8 and your leadership ability is a 6, guess what? You've increased your effectiveness. Your effectiveness is increased. And that's where you start to see really growth. So I really believe with my whole heart that companies, and this is who I want to be, organizations, teams that have strong leadership are going to have increased effectiveness, because they don't just have dedication to success, but they've got leadership ability. And this, guys, is so crucial out there. And this is what spurred me to start talking about and building my brand around leadership because I saw it was so lacking. I wanted to be someone, as John Maxwell talks about, to add value every day, but to add value in what I know and what I've experienced through my 41 plus years in the work environment. And I want to start talking about it and teaching it so I can help spur on other leaders. So this was really significant, guys. Leadership ability is always the lid on personal and organizational effectiveness. And I've seen this in my own life, right? If the leadership is strong, guess what? The lid is high. But if it's not, then the organization is limited, like we just saw. The idea, I know, can be troubling for some people because it means that no matter how much you desire to, let's say, be a 10 on the scale of leadership, and I think some people have I'll call it a fantasy about that because they really don't understand leadership, but they think if they just work really hard, they're going to get there. But there's a cap on your abilities based on a number of factors. Some of these factors are your people skills. And I could do a whole talk on that, how much lacking that is because it's not taught in college. Most businesses don't talk anything about people skills. How do you relate effectively? How can you be a nice person and do business? People skills are huge. Planning abilities, maybe vision, dedication to success, and your past results. And these are all just some summary points from John Maxwell's book, by the way. But the truth is, we do need to acknowledge this, that there's very few 10s in the world, right? That might be an ultimate goal, but very few people are going to reach that. However, when you leverage the law of the lid and assess your own leadership, you'll have a straightforward view of who your followers are and where they might land on the leadership scale. Okay, and the good news is that the law of the lid has room for flexibility. It's unwise to think that where you are today as a leader is as good as you'll ever be. And that's called part of personal development. In fact, John Maxwell wrote a book, Developing the Leader Within You 2.0, which I recently read again. But that's where I'm at. We're on it. Success is a journey, not a destination, right? I think you could say the same about personal development. It's a journey, not a destination, but you need to be working at it all the time. So, we all know wherever you look, you can find smart, talented, successful people, Sada Insurance, high producers, top numbers and all that, who are able to go only so far because the limitations of their leadership, or I would say the lack thereof. Nobody's taught them. They don't know anything about. They're just in this position because they produced high. They did really well at their job, but now they're leading a team of people or an organization or a division, and they don't have a clue because they've never learned about leadership. So note, to reach the highest level of effectiveness, you have to raise the lid, right? We all talk about raising the bar one way or another. Okay, so that's my law of the lid and my story of how I saw its truth in play and how that motivated me to build my brand around leadership. Because again, my desire is I really want to help empower people, but I want to be a leader. I want to keep growing as a leader, and I want to make a difference in people's lives. I want to be part of the solution, not part of the proverbial problem. Because again, as John Maxwell says, I truly believe that everything does rise or fall on leadership. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope this added some value to. I hope it gave you a different perspective, got a little bit of an idea of who I am and what my background is and why I'm so passionate about leadership. I'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to comment and subscribe if you'd like to get more videos on this. I do a Monday Morning Leadership each and every Monday. So have an awesome day, guys, and have an awesome Monday. Bye-bye.